Hey everybody, welcome to Trading the Close. My name is Gareth Soloway here at verifiedinvesting.com. So an interesting day in the markets today. Number one, it was extremely light volume. That always gives a neutral to upside bias. And again, always remember that, folks, around a holiday weekend, it's going to give that light volume as the institutions are not fully back at work yet. Light volume means retail investors are in control, and retail investors, as we know, mostly are buyers of the market. All right, so again, neutral to upside bias. We saw an update across the board today. Now let's take a look at that and see what the indices are doing today. Now the Dow is down today on the day, down about 131 points. But again, remember the Dow is 30 stocks. So if you get one or two stocks in the Dow to be down, you will have a down day on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The real kicker is looking at the NASDAQ, which again, the NASDAQ 100, for instance, is 100 stocks. S&P is obviously 500 stocks, and that's a much bigger gauge of overall how the market is doing. So the NASDAQ today up 200 points, or about 1%. The S&P up about 0.22%, or 13 points on the day. Notice again the heat map. Very interesting heat map today, right? So you have technology right here, a lot of green. Technology services right over here, a lot of green. And then if you go here, look at the financials. The financials were really problematic today. They were down generally. Look at that, all that red in there. You have utilities down. Why would utilities be down? Those are more of a safety hedge. So again, utilities seeing a pullback today. Notice when gold's down, oftentimes utilities are down as well. And then just these other sectors out here, a lot of gray in retail. Amazon up, but the rest of retail was kind of neutral on the day. All right, so looking back over here, oil today almost unchanged, down 6 cents. Gold down about $12, which again is a very minor pullback on gold. And Bitcoin today down at $95,660, pulling back just a shade. But remember, as long as it holds that key level of 91,000, the bias remains to the upside for a move above 100,000. It was down as low as 94 and change today, and then some rumors came out, maybe some real stuff, that MicroStrategy is back buying more Bitcoin here. And again, buy, as MicroStrategy likes to do, and that's keeping that support underneath it. So it almost seems like every dip not only is being bought by some retail, but then MicroStrategy just keeps on buying more and more Bitcoin. All right, let's go to a couple other charts here on the big board. If we look here at the S&P 500 or the SPY, I continue to focus on this trend line. Notice this one goes back to October of 2023, connects right through this low, and notice how we came down, we chopped along it, and then broke down. And once we broke and confirmed below, this line is now resistance. So it was support, support, and support. Once it broke and confirmed, it becomes resistance, resistance, and resistance, and resistance again. That implies that if the S&P rallies up to this level, it should meet resistance again. What level is that at? It's at my level of 6,100, my upside target on the S&P 500. NASDAQ today, as we said, had a good performance. This is the NASDAQ 100 tracking ETF, the QQQ. Notice here, guys, big green candle. Notice the wedge pattern. So we're now coming up to that upper level. We should see some resistance right around this 517.75 level. We'll watch to see, do we break out and confirm, or does it turn back around and break to the downside? Now, one interesting thing here, and I'm going to take away this line, is that if we bring this over here, look at where these two lines meet. Now, this is how you understand how markets likely will behave, is that it can stay within this wedge pattern, but once it gets to the tip here around the 20th of December, price will have to be forced one way or the other. It'll either be a breakout or a break to the downside. Now, it might break out sooner than that, maybe this week even, but my point being is that by the end of December, we are either going to have a breakout on this market on the NASDAQ or a breakdown, and one or the other will likely result in a big move. If it's a breakdown, I had this line on before, but basically we'd be looking at a trend line target price down here, which would actually be a pretty solid move on the NASDAQ 100 down to about the 465 range. The Russell today, again, money flow was all the rage. We had money flow into big cap tech. Stocks like Apple made new all-time highs. Meta had a good day. Google, Amazon were both up. NVIDIA kind of struggled again, but for the most part, that means that the Russell, which is small and mid caps, was lagging. Plus, this is financials, and we looked at the heat map showing that financials were weak as well. A big mover on the day was SMCI. They basically came out and said that they have not discovered any fraud yet. Good for them, right? Yippee, yippee here. And what we see on this chart is that we have a gap fill approaching at around $49. So if this continues to push up, there should be significant resistance right around 49 on SMCI. But what a move. It was a $17 stock just a couple days, or I should say a couple weeks ago. Apple today, notice again, it's kind of floated up, 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 up. We've now had, let's see here, 2, 4, 6 green days in a row. If we continue up, there should be good resistance around 245 on Apple. This trend line marking these tops. Notice big pullback off of this level, big pullback again here, here, here. So by default, at technical analysis signals, that's resistance until proven otherwise. You would expect some sort of pullback off that. Now let's talk a little Bitcoin here. Bitcoin holding steady here. Again, just hovering down just in that 95,700 level currently. Now the kicker here is that, again, as long as it holds this 95,000 level, 91,000 level, you will remain bullish with a big upside target of the bigger parallel that goes back to 2017 bull market highs to the 2021 bull market highs. And again, if we were to go up to about 107 to 108,000, that would be that key resistance level. And then I would actually expect a pullback to about 75,000 off of that level, just mimicking these past major corrections off of that level. And again, all I'm doing is just utilizing the chart to basically draw a conclusion. It doesn't mean it will be the right conclusion, but it means it's the most probable conclusion, and that's what technical analysis is all about. All right, we're going to talk Ripple here. Let's go over to the big board here and take a look at Ripple. Now, this is amazing, folks. So Ripple's up something like 400, 500, 600% in just basically the November period. But one thing I wanted to show you, and I showed you guys this in Solana recently as well. And by the way, Solana underperforming, Ethereum underperforming, Bitcoin underperforming, but certain altcoins like Ripple are just surging to the upside. But here's your chart of Ripple over here. This is your 2017 high right here. It was around that $3.40 level. So if you look at this, you would say, oh, Ripple's not at its all-time highs yet, right? Because it's only around 275 to 280 currently. You can very clearly see from that high to this high is a down-sloping trend line. So it means this was higher than this point. So again, most people, most retail investors are going to say, all right, well, maybe it goes to all-time highs. Maybe it touches that double top. That is always possible. But it's important for us to get a clear picture. If you look at the market cap of Ripple over here, what do we see? We see that this in 2017 was your market cap high, and you went all the way up here in terms of market cap, meaning that the market cap is actually at an all-time high. Now, some people may be scratching their head and saying, well, how is that possible? Price is lower than it was in 2017, but market cap, actual size of Ripple, is way bigger at $165 billion in terms of market cap. The reason is simple. All right, Ripple has been releasing billions more in tokens, so essentially like a fiat currency, like the dollar, printing, 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 and that is why you have so many more tokens now that at a lower price, the market cap of Ripple is still at a new all-time high. Same thing happened to Solana. I was just looking at H-bar, same thing with H-bar. So you want to keep it in perspective here that these type of things do matter, and you want to be aware that the size, the market cap may be more important when you're looking at coins that can be printed, or actually more tokens being created, versus a Bitcoin that only has 21 million. Bitcoin with 21 million, that's all you have. So again, you can't really have a bigger market cap in that situation because, again, there's a stated max run. Any coin that has an unlimited amount of coins that can be created, you just as an investor want to be aware of that. All right, and again, as I said, that could be H-bar, could be any of these other ones. And by the way, I mean, incredible moves. If we look at the H-bar chart here, this is your weekly chart on H-bar. And again, this is Hedera. Here's the daily chart, but just to give you guys an example of the runs these things have had, if you go back to November 5th when Trump was elected president, this is now up 571%. That is incredible. Now listen, it was a nasty bear market for the altcoins. There's no doubt about that. But again, these have certainly broken out and made up for it. Many of them are taking out the highs from 2021 highs versus the 2017, as we saw with Ripple. It hadn't quite taken out that price high, but the market cap high. All right, next up, let's quickly take a look at gold here and see what gold's doing today. Gold, again, very simple. You can see this is just holding steady. Let's go to the big board and just take a look here. Gold here, small down day. That was after these comments by Trump over kind of the weekend where he talked about the BRICS countries and how they've kind of gotten together and say, hey, we want to create an alternate to the US dollar as a reserve currency. And Trump basically saying, hey, if you guys do that, we're going to slap 100% tariffs on you, because we don't want any other currency to be the reserve currency. We want the US dollar to be. All right, now because the dollar spiked, this is what I'm drawing the conclusion to, is that the dollar went up sharply on this news. That pushed gold down only a little bit, to be fair. Only a little bit of a dip. But number one, we have this upsloping channel. Number two, we have this down move. This is a bear flag. So this is telling me, at least in the short term, the next 3 to 5 days, let's say, you would expect gold to eventually curl over, tag here, and if it breaks, you could be headed for these lower levels. So short-term bias on gold is negative right now. Remember, not that long ago, I went long right here for that move up. We caught that beautifully, and now again, the bias is flipped. I'm not short, by the way, just to be clear. It's not a big enough move that would get me interested. This was a no-brainer. High pivot right here to go short, low pivot right there, parallel channel. You have a big enough move to the upside to make it worthwhile to trade. This one, again, we're just talking about like and again, you can't assume it's going to break, so you only see that sort of gain. You have to just be conservative and say, all right, I'll step away on that. Okay. Let's see what else we got going on here as we get into the charts. We'll look at silver real quick here. And silver, let's see what we got on this one. Yeah, silver just fractionally lower. Not much going on there. I still think silver eventually breaks this 29.85 area and flushes down to about $28 to $27.75. And then if we look quickly at oil, let's just see what oil's doing today. Nothing. I wish there was more to talk about on oil. I think the bigger picture remains, and I've gone over this many times over, that the bigger picture on oil here is that if it does break $65 a barrel, that would be very, very bearish for price, as it could really see a major decline. And then lastly, natural gas today, a nice little drop here. It is coming into some support around 305. I will not be a buyer there, not because I don't think it's going to bounce, but understand that I have to have the reward for the risk. And so especially with something as volatile as natural gas, if I'm only going to get, let's say, 5% upside, it's a lot of risk to be taking to go long for 5% when we know natural gas can drop 10, 20, 30% in a very short amount of time. All right, guys, so again, tomorrow we have JOLTS data, I believe at 10 a.m. That's the job openings data. It's the beginning of a trilogy of economic reports that are job-related. Wednesday we'll have the ADP, Friday non-farm payrolls and unemployment. So be ready for some action. A little bit light in the stock market today, but it should pick up in the coming days. You guys have a great one. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow morning for the game plan. Take care.